Have you ever felt like you're working harder than ever, but not moving forward? You stay up late, grinding through pitch decks, replying to clients, scrolling through business advice you've read 10 times before. You do the webinars, the cold outreach, the weekend meetings that blur into Monday. You wear the hustle like a badge, but deep inside, something feels quietly off. And still, a quiet voice whispers in the background. Is this really the path? You hit goals, you grow your numbers, you check the boxes, you post the wins on social media, you get the likes, you get the applause, but applause doesn't equal alignment. It's not that you're lazy, it's not that you're lost, it's that somewhere along the way, you were told success is something to chase, to hustle for, to sacrifice everything to reach. You were told the formula was simple: grind more, rest less, scale fast. But Jim Rohn saw it differently. He said, success is not to be pursued, it is to be attracted by the person you become. Let that sink in for a moment. Success is not a chase, it's a magnet, and you are the one that shapes the magnetic field. So today, we're not here to talk about scaling your startup, finding investors, or optimizing funnels. We're here to talk about something deeper. The you behind the strategy, the mindset behind the mission, the identity behind the income, the character behind the calendar. Because you don't need another to-do list, you need a philosophy. You don't need another productivity hack, you need clarity on who you are becoming in the process. You don't need louder motivation, you need quieter alignment. You don't need more apps, you need more awareness. So I ask you, entrepreneur, builder, dreamer, who are you becoming while you build your business? Who is quietly emerging behind every goal you write and every promise you break? Because here's the hard truth. If the you inside doesn't grow, no amount of outside success will feel like enough. You'll keep running, keep launching, keep checking boxes, keep buying new courses, keep tweaking landing pages, but deep down, you'll still wonder, why doesn't this feel like winning? Why does progress feel like pressure? Today we change that. Today we slow down to go further. We shift from building a business that impresses to building a life that fulfills. Jim Rohn said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Because you are the real strategy. You are the greatest asset. You are the difference between growth and burnout. So for the next few moments, this is your space. A space not to plan the next quarter, but to reset the next decade. A space to realign, to re-choose, to re-become. A place where ambition meets integrity, where hustle meets harmony. You don't have to have all the answers, just the courage to ask the right questions. Am I building from alignment or from anxiety? Am I chasing noise or attracting meaning? Am I leading a company or following a script? Am I growing my income while shrinking my inner peace? Because the most important shift you can make today is not in your strategy, it's in your philosophy. And the greatest investment you can ever make is not into your brand, but into your becoming. So welcome to a deeper conversation, to a slower breath, to a quieter truth, to the version of you that doesn't just achieve but understands. Today, we go beyond hacks, beyond noise, beyond checklists, beyond survival mode entrepreneurship. We go inward to the source of sustainable growth, to the heart of authentic success, to the place Jim Rohn always pointed us toward. Ourselves. Let's begin. Let's be honest. Being an entrepreneur today isn't just hard, it's overwhelming. You wake up to a wall of notifications, Slack, email, client requests, LinkedIn messages, updates, reminders. You haven't even had your first sip of coffee, and already you're behind. Your day hasn't started, but your anxiety has. You're not alone. This is the silent crisis of the modern entrepreneur. From the outside, it looks like momentum. From the inside, it feels like a landslide. Jim Rohn warned us long ago, don't mistake movement for achievement. But that's exactly what many of us are doing. We're sprinting on treadmills, pretending it's a finish line. We're optimizing and automating, without asking if the goal is even still meaningful. We confuse visibility with value. We trade purpose for performance. And it's exhausting. We tell ourselves, Just one more launch. One more pivot. Once this campaign ends, I'll slow down, but the treadmill doesn't stop. It just speeds up. So what's really going on? Why are so many smart, driven, capable people burning out? Let's name it. Let's look it in the eye. Let's dissect what's keeping modern entrepreneurs stuck, despite all our effort. The first trap is the culture of constant comparison. Every scroll shows you someone else's highlight reel. Six-figure launches, jet-setting founders, CEOs meditating in Bali while running 4 companies. And you're still in sweatpants, trying to figure out why your ad isn't converting. You tell yourself, I must be doing something wrong. But what if the only thing wrong is the pressure to be perfect at everything? Comparison breeds distortion. You measure your progress against someone else's peak, their curated wins against your daily grind. And over time, you lose clarity. You stop defining success on your terms. You start chasing what looks good instead of what feels aligned. Jim Rohn said, if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And the plans the world sells us, they're loud, they're flashy, they're addictive, but they are not designed for your peace. Trap 2, confusing busyness with progress. We've been taught that more is better, more meetings, more tasks, more notifications, more pressure. We glorify hustle. We romanticize burnout. We say things like, I haven't taken a day off in months, like it's a badge of honor. But what if the real flex is being well rested, clear-headed, deliberate? Let's ask the hard question. Are you building a business or surviving a schedule? Because if your calendar is packed but your heart is empty, something's misaligned. Jim Rohn reminded us time is more valuable than money, and yet we give it away like it's worthless, to calls that don't matter, to goals we never chose, to people we barely know. Trap 3, fear of stillness. You see, silence forces reflection, and reflection requires honesty. And honesty, that's where things get uncomfortable. Because in the quiet, you might realize you're not proud of the way you've been working or living. You might admit you're building something that no longer excites you, or worse, you don't even know why you started. But here's the truth. If you don't make space to feel, you'll never have clarity to build. Stillness is not weakness, it's strategy. The world tells you to go faster. Jim Rohn tells you, slow down to realign, because speed without direction is the fastest way to burnout. Trap 4, outsourcing your identity to your income. This one is subtle. It creeps in over time. You introduce yourself by what you do. You judge your worth by your revenue. Your confidence rises and falls with your analytics. But what happens when the numbers dip, when the launch flops, when growth platea us? Does your sense of self collapse with it? Jim said it best, don't join an easy crowd. You won't grow. Go where the expectations and the demands to perform are high. But make sure those expectations are internal. Make sure they're rooted in who you want to become. Because when your worth is tied only to results, you'll keep moving the finish line, and no amount of money will feel like enough. So let's zoom out. What do all these traps have in common? They disconnect you from you. They drown out your intuition. They replace alignment with algorithm. They convince you that if you're not drowning, you're not doing enough. But deep down, you know that's not true. What you're craving is not another growth strategy. It's not another course. It's not a better CRM or a new ad format. It's alignment. It's clarity. It's peace. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you asked yourself, what do I want to feel every day when I work? When was the last time you made a decision, not from fear of falling behind, but from faith in your values? When was the last time you led, not just with strategy, but with soul? This is the work Jim Rohn was pointing us to, the internal architecture, the character behind the calendar, because you can build a business that succeeds and still feel empty. Or you can build a business that reflects your wholeness. So today, let's be brave enough to pause, to listen, to remember that your business is not just a machine. It's an extension of your mind, your values, your evolution. And most of all, remember, you are not behind, you are not broken, you are becoming. And you have the right to build at your pace, to define your success, to lead with philosophy, not just productivity. So take a breath, drop the noise, pick up your clarity, and let's keep going together. Lesson 1. Develop yourself before developing your business. Let's begin with the most important truth Jim Rohn ever taught. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. It sounds simple, even obvious, but most entrepreneurs ignore it, not out of arrogance, but out of urgency. You feel the pressure to perform, to meet payroll, to scale, to execute, to stay relevant. So you pour your energy into fixing the product, you tweak the marketing, you restructure the team, you optimize the funnel. But here's the hard truth. No business ever outgrows the mindset of its founder. Let that settle for a moment, because most people are trying to build empires with shaky foundations. They think success comes from the outside in, but Jim Rohn knew better. He taught us, success is something you attract by the person you become. And this is where the shift happens. You see, building a business isn't just about systems, it's about self. It's not just execution, it's evolution. The entrepreneur who succeeds long-term is not the one who knows all the tactics, but the one who keeps growing as a person. Because your leadership sets the tone, your beliefs shape the brand, your energy filters through every customer interaction. So ask yourself, are you growing or just grinding? Because hustle without growth is just repetition with fancier tools. And the world doesn't need more burned out founders, it needs self-led ones. So what does it mean to work harder on yourself? Let's break it down into 3 parts. Awareness, discipline, philosophy. Let's start with awareness. Jim used to say, don't just go through life, grow through life. That starts with asking yourself better questions. What patterns keep repeating in my leadership? Where do I avoid responsibility? What emotions am I bringing into my business? Are you acting out of fear or from a grounded vision? Most entrepreneurs never stop long enough to self-reflect. They confuse motion with evolution. But just because you're busy doesn't mean you're changing. And without self-awareness, you'll build strategies on top of self-sabotage. So take time to observe your own patterns. Keep a journal, hire a coach. Sit in silence, not because it's trendy, but because you can't solve what you don't see. Second, discipline. Discipline isn't punishment. It's structure in service of your potential. Jim put it clearly, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Anyone can set a goal, but few people show up for themselves consistently enough to get there. Discipline means you write the email even when no one's watching. You get up early even when you don't feel like it. You keep your word to yourself. Because the hardest promises to keep are the ones no one else sees. But those are the ones that define your character, and your character defines your business. Jim believed success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. So don't underestimate the power of your small habits. They're not just productivity tools, they are identity shapers. Want to build a strong company? Start by being the kind of person who follows through. The world doesn't need more ambitious ideas, it needs more anchored individuals. Third, philosophy. This was Jim's favorite word. He said, your personal philosophy is the major factor in how your life works out. So ask yourself, what beliefs are driving your business? Do you believe success is earned or forced? Do you believe money is scarce or abundant? Do you believe people are assets or obstacles? Your philosophy shapes every decision you make, whether to partner or walk away, whether to fire fast or forgive, whether to chase trends or stand in your values. If your beliefs are outdated, your strategies will be too. So renew your philosophy often. Read books, challenge your thinking, surround yourself with people who expand your mindset. Because if your inner world grows, your outer results will follow. So let's recap. Self-development is not a luxury. It's not something you do after success. It is the path to success. Jim Rohn didn't just build wealth, he built wisdom. And he passed it on with one simple reminder. Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. So if you're feeling stuck, don't just look at your business plan. Look in the mirror, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Ask, where can I grow? Where am I reacting instead of responding? Where have I stopped being a student? You don't need to fix the world today. Just work on one corner of it. Start with you. Because when you grow, everything you touch grows too. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and watch how your business becomes the reflection of a deeper you. Let's keep building from the inside out. Lesson 2. Personal discipline is the nucleus of achievement. Let's talk about one of Jim Rohn's most iconic teachings, a truth that separates dreamers from doers. He said, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Let that sink in, because every entrepreneur has goals. We've got lists, we've got boards, we've got visions, but goals without discipline are just daydreams on expensive paper. You don't need more goals. You need more bridges, and every bridge is built with discipline. So what is discipline? It's not rigidity. It's not punishment. It's not self-denial. True discipline is self-respect in motion. It's honoring your future self more than your current impulse. It's choosing what you want most over what you want now. Let's look deeper. Every successful entrepreneur you admire, every visionary, every builder, every icon, they all have one thing in common: discipline. They show up when it's hard. They do the work when no one is clapping. They keep their word to themselves, especially when it's inconvenient. That's the difference. It's not talent. It's not timing, it's not algorithms, it's consistency. Repeated, relentlessly. Now let's make it practical, because discipline isn't something you're born with, it's something you cultivate deliberately. So how do you build it? How do you make discipline a way of life, not just a burst of motivation? Jim Rohn gave us a map. Let's walk through it together. Step 1. Keep promises to yourself. Start small. Wake up when you said you would. Write the page you said you'd write. Close the laptop when you said you would stop working. Why? Because self-trust is the foundation of all discipline. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build integrity. Every time you break it, you weaken belief in your own word. 0.5s. Discipline isn't just about action. It's about identity. It's about becoming the kind of person who follows through, even when no one is watching, especially then. Step 2. Set up systems, not just willpower. Jim used to say, motivation gets you going, habit gets you there. So stop trying to be strong all the time. Be strategic. Don't fight distraction, design around it. Put the phone in another room. Use time blocks. Automate where you can. Create rituals that reduce decision fatigue. Because every time you rely on willpower, you're playing defense. Discipline isn't about resisting temptation. It's about removing it before it becomes a battle. Step 3. Let your values lead your schedule. Most entrepreneurs plan their time around urgency, deadlines, messages, crisis, demand. But Jim taught us to plan around purpose. He said, when you know what you want and you want it bad enough, you'll find a way to get it. So ask, what matters most? What do I want to experience, build, contribute? Then, does my calendar reflect that, or am I living out of alignment with my priorities? Discipline isn't just about effort, it's about alignment. It's about choosing intentionally. Saying no, not out of fear, but out of focus. Step 4, embrace the boredom. Yes, boredom. Because discipline isn't always exciting. It's often repetitive. It's writing the email. It's filming the 37th video. It's refining the sales process again. Greatness doesn't come from novelty. It comes from repetition with refinement. It's not sexy, but it's sacred. Jim knew success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Read that again. Simple disciplines, not complicated strategies, not massive leaps. Simple. Daily. Non-negotiable. So the real question is, can you stay committed to the mundane, to the foundational, to the quiet work? Because in that quiet work, your future is being built. Step 5. Recover with purpose. Discipline is not burnout. Discipline is sustainability. Jim also taught the value of rest. He said, don't just get through the day, get from the day. So don't grind until you collapse. Recharge, reflect, review. Discipline is also knowing when to pause so you can push forward better. Now let's look at what happens when you truly live this way. You stop needing motivation to act. You become reliable to yourself. your business stabilizes, your life feels lighter. You stop starting over every Monday because your habits carry you even when your mood doesn't. That's the power of discipline. And Jim made it clear, discipline is not the enemy, it's the gateway to confidence, to freedom, to excellence. So if you want to go further, don't try harder, get clearer, get simpler, and then commit. Every day, especially when it's boring, especially when it's hard. Because that's where identity is forged. And identity is what builds legacy. Not what you did once, but what you did again, and again, and again. Jim Rohn said we must all suffer one of two things, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Choose the one that moves you forward. Choose the one that builds you. Choose discipline. Let's keep walking that bridge toward your better future. Lesson 3, choosing your companions, not just networking, but mental energy. There's a quote from Jim Rohn that has echoed across generations of entrepreneurs. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's not just a catchy line, it's a law of life. Because whether you notice it or not, your environment is shaping you every single day. It shapes how you think, what you believe is possible, how you react under pressure, what you tolerate, what you normalize. And for entrepreneurs, this is amplified tenfold. Why? Because we don't have bosses, we don't have fixed hours, we don't have someone handing us a script. So what fills the gap? The people around us. Their mindset becomes our reference point. Their energy becomes our baseline. Their fears become our hesitations. Their courage becomes our invitation. This is why Jim didn't just talk about networking. He talked about association. Networking is transactional, but association, that's transformational. So let's ask the hard question. Who are your 5? Who are you absorbing every day? Whose standards are shaping your own? Whose vocabulary is becoming your inner voice? Because here's the truth, you will rise or fall to the level of your circle. And that circle isn't always intentional. Sometimes it's inherited, sometimes it's accidental, sometimes it's built on convenience, not alignment. But here's what Jim wanted us to remember. You can choose your circle, and in doing so, you choose your future. So let's break it down. There are 3 types of relationships every entrepreneur must consciously cultivate. 1, those who lift your standard. 2, those who challenge your thinking. 3, those who support your spirit. Let's begin with the first. Those who lift your standard. These are the people who don't let you settle, who don't celebrate your excuses, who remind you of who you said you wanted to be when you're tempted to forget. They are not impressed by your potential. They're invested in your follow-through. Jim said, if you want to be successful, study success. These people embody the kind of discipline, clarity, and integrity you admire, and being around them pulls you upward. It's not about competing, it's about calibrating. Because when excellence is normal, mediocrity becomes uncomfortable. Next, those who challenge your thinking. These are not your yes men. These are your mirrors. They ask questions that stretch you. They poke at your assumptions. They don't argue to win. They question to deepen. They say, I hear you, but what if there's another way? They help you separate emotion from insight, reaction from reflection, ego from evolution. Because as Jim often said, the major value in life is not what you get. The major value in life is what you become. And these people help you become more by expanding how you think. Third, those who support your spirit. Not with tactics, but with presence. They're the ones who don't need to fix you when you're struggling. They just sit with you until you find your breath again. They remind you that you're more than your metrics, that your worth isn't tied to your latest launch, that you're allowed to rest, to feel, to be human. Jim knew, take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. And I'd add, take care of your spirit. It's the only force that sustains you when the data doesn't encourage you. Now look at your life. Do you have all 3? If not, it's not a judgment, it's an invitation to build more consciously, to connect more intentionally, to choose more courageously. Because when you upgrade your circle, you upgrade your reality. You start speaking differently, thinking differently, showing up differently. And over time, almost imperceptibly, you become the kind of person you once admired from afar. But let's be real, changing your circle isn't easy. It can feel like betrayal. It can bring up guilt. It can surface old stories about loyalty, obligation, identity. Jim anticipated this. He said, some people you have to love from a distance because proximity is powerful, and sometimes distance is love. You're not abandoning anyone. You're honoring your path. And when you rise, you create permission. Others see what's possible, and maybe they rise too. So here's the call. Audit your circle. Update your inputs. Curate your energetic environment like your life depends on it, because it does. Join communities that stretch you. Reach out to mentors. Read books that provoke growth. Spend time with people who don't just inspire you, but ignite you. And when you find those people, hold them close. Learn with them, build with them, celebrate with them. Because entrepreneurship is not a solo race, it's a team sport. And the quality of your teammates, that shapes the pace and the joy of your journey. So remember, you are the average of your 5. Choose wisely, because in choosing them, you are choosing who you are becoming. Let's keep growing. Lesson 4, small, consistent actions create big success. Let's finish this chapter with the most underrated and most powerful truth Jim Rohn ever shared. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines, practiced every day. Simple, not sexy, but transformational. Because here's what most people get wrong. They think success is a moment, an event, a big breakthrough. But Jim knew. Success is a rhythm, a repetition, a quiet compounding of small, intentional acts. In a world obsessed with the next big thing, Jim pointed us to the next small thing, and that's where greatness begins. Let's break it down. Every result you have in life, good or bad, is a product of your repeated behavior. Your health, your relationships, your bank account, your confidence. They're all reflections of what you've been doing consistently, not occasionally. So if you want better results, don't wait for a breakthrough. Start with a habit. Jim said, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. That's the paradox. The small things matter precisely because they're easy to ignore. Anyone can journal for one day. Anyone can go to the gym once. Anyone can make 5 cold calls on Monday. But the magic isn't in the act, it's in the pattern. So let's explore what it takes to build those small disciplines into unstoppable momentum. Step 1. Start smaller than you think. Your brain craves completion, not ambition. So don't try to write a book. Try to write 1 paragraph. Don't overhaul your routine. Wake up 15 minutes earlier. Don't launch 5 campaigns. Send 1 email. The smaller the habit, the less resistance. The less resistance, the more repetition. And repetition is how you rewire your life. Step 2. Anchor the habit to identity. Jim taught, you don't get paid for the hour. You get paid for the value you bring to the hour. So don't just do the thing. Become the person who does it. Say, I'm the kind of person who follows through. I'm the kind of entrepreneur who finishes what I start. I show up daily, even when it's hard. The action is what you do. The identity is who you become. And when those match, discipline becomes natural. Step 3. Track it visually. Progress fuels motivation, but our brains forget progress quickly, so track the habit. Put an X on the calendar. Use a sticky note. See the streak. Jim loved notebooks for this reason. He said, don't trust your memory, write it down. Because when you see your effort, you protect your momentum. Step 4. Celebrate completion, not complexity. A small win is still a win. And a stack of small wins, that's how empires are built. Jim said, learn to be happy with what you have while you pursue what you want. So don't wait until you hit the big milestone. Celebrate showing up today. Even brushing your teeth with presence. Even saying no to the extra screen time. Even 5 minutes of focused effort. They all count. And when you give yourself credit, you give yourself fuel. Step 5. Don't break the chain. 2 days in a row. Missing 1 day is life. Missing 2 becomes a pattern. So if you fall off, get back on immediately. Jim taught that resilience is not perfection, it's recovery. Think of it like brushing your teeth. You wouldn't stop because you missed a morning. You'd start again that night. Habits are the same. The win isn't in never falling, it's in never quitting. Now let's zoom out. What if you applied this to your business? What if you sent one follow-up email every day, wrote one paragraph of your course every day, told one customer thank you every day? Small things done consistently, with care, with intention. That's how reputations are built. That's how trust is earned. That's how businesses grow, organically and honestly. Jim knew this. That's why his work outlived him. Because while the world changed, his principles didn't. They were timeless. And the most timeless principle of all, your future is hiding in your daily routine. So stop looking for magic. Stop chasing hacks. Ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do every day that aligns with my vision? Then do it. Not when it's convenient, but especially when it's inconvenient, because that's when the identity forms. That's when you shift from hoping to becoming. So let's close this out with a final thought from Jim. Success is neither magical nor mysterious. Success is the natural consequence of consistently applying basic fundamentals. And that's your invitation, to return to the fundamentals, to fall in love with the process, to honor the small. Because when you do that, one small act at a time, you don't just build a business, you build a legacy. Let's keep building, one step, one page, one day at a time. 4 specific actions, 3 small things to start today. Task 1, you've just heard the 4 timeless lessons from Jim Rohn. The mindset, the habits, the discipline, the people. But all that insight means nothing unless it turns into action. So let's begin that process. Let's make it real. Because theory doesn't change your life. Application does. Jim used to say, don't let your learning lead to knowledge. Let your learning lead to action. So starting now, we move, we commit, we take a small, bold, specific step forward. Step 1. Your first mission. Identify 3 daily habits that weaken you and replace one. Let's be clear, this isn't about judgment, it's about clarity. You're not broken, you're just running a pattern that no longer serves you. And here's the key. You can't change your entire life overnight, but you can change one behavior. Today. That's where the power is. Start here. Make a list of 3 habits you know are costing you, not just in productivity, but in energy, in focus, in self-respect. Look for the micro behaviors, the ones that fly under the radar. Scrolling for 20 minutes before bed, saying yes when you mean no, skipping meals, leaving your desk a mess, complaining internally about clients, hitting snooze more than once. Small habits, but they drain you. They fragment your power. Now circle one, just one. The one you feel ready to replace. Not eliminate, replace. Because nature abhors a vacuum. If you simply try to remove a behavior, it'll return in disguise. But if you replace it with something empowering, that's when change sticks. For example, if you scroll before bed, replace it with 10 minutes of reading. If you hit snooze, replace it with 5 deep breaths and 1 glass of water. If you complain, replace it with a quick gratitude list. It's not about perfection, it's about a new direction. Jim Rohn taught, you cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. So pick your habit, then ask, what will I do instead? Name it, schedule it, anchor it. This isn't just behavior change, it's identity change. When you shift the small things you tolerate, you shift the standard for your life. And standards shape destinies. Let's go even deeper. Why do you do that habit? Not the surface reason, the emotional driver. Maybe you scroll because you're overstimulated. Maybe you overeat because you're overgiving. Maybe you hit snooze because your mornings feel meaningless. Don't just change the action, understand the craving beneath it. And when you meet that craving with consciousness, you regain choice. So here's the formula. 1. Identify 3 micro habits that drain you. 2. Choose one to shift. 3. Replace it with a small intentional ritual. 4. Track it for 7 days. 5. Reflect each night with one sentence. Did I honor my shift today? That's it. That's the assignment. No grand transformation, no life overhaul, just one mindful exchange. Because real power isn't built in explosions. it's built in decisions. And here's what happens after 7 days. You don't just feel different, you trust yourself more. That trust, it's fuel. It's the beginning of momentum. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by how far you have to go, zoom in, come back to one moment, one decision, one habit. Jim said, "Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day." This is your first. And here's the best part. When you do it, when you actually follow through, you don't just feel proud. You feel powerful, because now you've become someone who honors their word. And that changes everything. Let's move forward, one conscious habit at a time. Task 2. The second action step in this journey may seem simple at first glance, but don't let its simplicity fool you. It holds the power to realign your life from the inside out. Paw fives. Jim Rohn often reminded us, when the why gets stronger, the how gets easier. And that why comes from your values. So today, we're going to do something most people never stop to do. Define your 5 core values and compare them to how you actually live and do business. Let's begin with a bold question. What do you stand for? Not your brand, not your business plan, you. What matters most to you? What do you protect when no one's watching? What do you choose when no one's forcing? Because here's the truth, most people drift. They don't decide. They adopt beliefs from parents, culture, social media, and they operate with inherited priorities they've never questioned. Jim taught us, if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. So let's stop the drift. Let's design. Step 1. Write down 5 values you want your life to stand for. Not words that sound good, words that feel real. Integrity, curiosity, service, discipline, freedom, kindness, creativity, clarity, whatever speaks to your soul, whatever roots your decisions. Now take a breath. Look at those 5 and ask, are these guiding the way I build? Are these shaping how I sell, hire, lead, create? For example, if one of your values is freedom, but your business model enslaves your time, there's a fracture. If you value integrity, but your pricing strategy feels manipulative, there's a disconnect. If you value creativity, but you only follow templates and trends, there's a cost. Values are only alive when they show up in your actions. Anything else is branding, not truth. Step 2. Map your values to your business behaviors. This is where alignment becomes visible. Take each value and ask, how does this show up in how I lead? How does this show up in how I market? How does this show up in how I serve clients? How does this show up in my schedule? This is not a branding exercise. This is a behavioral audit. Because when your business strategy violates your personal philosophy, you feel it in your gut, in your energy, in your burnout. Step 3. Choose one small business decision this week and make it more value aligned. Maybe it's saying no to a client who doesn't feel right, updating your email tone to feel more honest, blocking time to create because you value depth over speed, raising your prices to match the value you truly deliver. Tiny decisions, rooted in your truth. That's what builds resonance. That's what builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. Jim said, success is not something you pursue. It is something you attract by the person you become. Values are who you become. Let's not stop here, because values are not just strategy, they're also healing. When you align your work with your values, you experience wholeness, less friction, more flow. It doesn't mean life gets easier, but it becomes more truthful. And truth is energizing. Let's recap your mission. 1. Write down your 5 core values. 2. Reflect on how each one shows up or doesn't in your business. 3. Choose one small action this week to realign a decision with a value. 4. At the end of the week, journal. Where did I lead from values, and where did I default to fear or convenience? That's it. That's your alignment practice, and here's the result. You begin to feel lighter, more certain, more magnetic. Why? Because when your values and actions match, you become congruent, and congruence is confidence. You no longer need to chase approval. You stand in clarity. You lead from your own code, and people feel that. Because people don't just buy your product, they buy your presence, they buy your congruence, They buy the energy of someone who's living in alignment. Jim reminded us, the same wind blows on us all, but it is the set of the sail that determines the direction we go. Your values are your sail. They steer you, not away from storms, but through them. So take this practice seriously, because clarity isn't just a mindset, it's an asset. And when you build from values, you don't just grow revenue, you grow roots. Let's set that sail deliberately, honestly, and in your direction. Task 3. Now we come to the third small action. It may be the most unexpected, but if you truly embrace it, it will shift your mindset faster than any productivity hack ever could. Here's the invitation. Choose one person who inspires you and connect with them more deeply. Jim Rohn said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." We've talked about that before, but now we're turning it into action. Because this isn't just about networking. This is about spiritual nutrition, about upgrading the emotional air you breathe. Let's be real. You can't grow in a vacuum, and willpower can only take you so far without new reference points. When you're surrounded by people who think small, play safe, and resist change, it affects you, even when you know better. So the antidote? Consciously seek proximity to inspiration. You don't need to know them personally, but you do need to absorb them consistently. Start here. Who's one person, alive or past, who deeply inspires you? Not just because of what they achieved, but because of how they moved, how they led, how they lived. It could be someone famous, it could be someone in your circle, it could be someone you followed online for years, or someone you've just discovered. What matters is resonance. You hear them, and something inside you straightens. You read their words, and your breath slows. You watch them, and your standards rise. Now, go one step deeper. Choose how you'll connect with them, consistently. Listen to 5 minutes of their podcast every morning. Read one page from their book each night. Send them a thank you email. Share their message with someone else. Invite them for a 15-minute virtual coffee. Journal about what you're learning from them. You don't need a reply to grow. You just need to reach, to engage, to keep their energy close. Jim Rohn was that person for many, including me. His voice, his cadence, his discipline, his way of making the profound sound simple. I never met him, but I know him because I chose to. And that's the power of this practice. Inspiration by proximity. When you surround yourself with someone better, you stop negotiating with your lower self. You stop asking if it's okay to shrink. You stop needing permission to rise. Your point 5. You become more, not through force, but through resonance. So here's your challenge. 1. Identify one person who embodies the traits you want to strengthen. 2. Choose a consistent way to connect with their work, energy, or message. 3. Schedule it. 4. Protect it. 5. Reflect after 7 days. What did I think, feel, or do differently this week because of their influence? That's it. That's your step. No fancy funnels, no expensive masterminds, just real growth by changing who you're energetically around. And if you're feeling bold, reach out. Send that DM, record that message, start that conversation. Because leaders don't wait to be discovered. They initiate. They honor what inspires them by engaging it. Polaral point 5s. And remember, this practice isn't about fan behavior. It's about alignment. When you spend time with people who think bigger, you normalize growth, you deconstruct limitation, you heal from years of settling. Because greatness isn't just taught, it's caught, and you catch it through proximity. Jim Rohn said, if someone is going down the wrong road, he doesn't need motivation to speed him up. What he needs is education to turn him around. And often that education is a person, their story, their energy, their standard. So if you've been stuck, uninspired, unmotivated, maybe you don't need more effort. Maybe you just need new influence. Maybe the right voice at the right time is the turn you've been waiting for. Let's recap. Choose one person who truly inspires you. Decide how you'll engage with them consistently. Reflect after 7 days. What shifted? This is how you change your internal circle, even before your external one catches up. Pause point. One person, one connection, one upgrade to your inner atmosphere. That's how growth accelerates. Let's step into that upgrade, starting today. We've walked through so much today. The philosophy of Jim Rohn, the mindset shifts, the daily disciplines, the people who shape us, the small, steady actions that build a life. But as we reach the end of this journey, there's one truth that rises above all others. Success doesn't start with strategy. It starts with self. And the deepest transformations, they don't begin with systems. They begin with soul. Jim Rohn never tried to impress us with flash. He invited us to go inward, to look at the root, to build a life that feels good to come home to. So before we part ways, let's pause, let's breathe, let's reflect on what this all really means. Because maybe you came here looking for clarity in business, but what you found was clarity about yourself. That's the gift of this work. It meets you where you are, but it doesn't leave you there. It calls you up. It asks, who are you becoming while you're building? Not just what are you achieving, but what are you embodying? Not just how big is your vision, but how aligned is your life? Because your success is not measured by what you own. It's measured by what you honor, by how true you stay to your values when no one's watching, by how calmly you lead when everything is uncertain, by how deeply you breathe in the middle of chaos. That's what Jim Rohn gave us, a blueprint for becoming, and becoming is what real success requires. Let's revisit his words. It is the set of the sails, not the direction of the wind, that determines which way we will go. That quote isn't just poetic, it's profoundly practical. The wind will blow, the economy will shift, the algorithm will change, the plans will break, the goals will evolve. But the sail, that's you, that's your response, that's your resilience, that's your discipline, your inner compass. So ask yourself, have I been blaming the wind, or have I been adjusting my sail? This is your chance to stop waiting for the world to calm down and to start leading from within. And if you ever feel like it's too late, remember, every moment is a pivot point. Jim said, you cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. And that direction begins with one inner decision, to live by design, not by default. So here's my invitation to you. Don't just finish this talk and move on. Sit with it, wrestle with it, walk with it. Let it disrupt something. Let it renew something. Let it become a turning point, not just a podcast, not just a video, a shift. And most of all, let it call you back to your power. Because Jim's teachings were never about pressure. They were about permission. Permission to grow, to reflect, to choose differently, to become more and need less. And so as we part ways, I'll leave you with one simple practice. At the end of each day, ask yourself, did I act in alignment with who I want to become? Not, was I productive, but was I present? Not, did I check all the boxes? But, did I lead from truth? And if the answer is no, smile, because now you're aware, and awareness is the first step toward change. Let that question guide you, not to guilt, but to growth. Because you don't need to hustle harder, you just need to align deeper. And from that alignment, success flows, naturally, quietly, powerfully. Thank you for joining me on this journey, for listening not just with your ears, but with your heart. For being willing to question, to pause, to reset. Jim's legacy lives on in people like you. People who don't just consume content, but who live with contentment, who choose growth, not noise, who build with depth, not just scale, who remember that success is a reflection of self. Let's go. Live that truth together.